Hello and welcome to Series 3 Episode 2 of Saturday Morning Nostalgia. The year's 2012, we're in the second quarter, so that's May to July, and there were two paper magic products that I want to talk about that came out then. First was Avacyn Restored on May the 4th, and the second was Planechase 2012 on June the 1st. So first up, Avacyn Restored, May the 4th release. Had 244 cards, so it's a large set, even though it's the third set of the block of the Innistrad block. Oftentimes what you would expect with the third set would be a smaller set. So often in Magic what happens is when you get a block, first set's large, second set's small, third set's small. And when you're drafting the third set, you have a pack from each of the three sets of the block. With the large set as the third set, and specifically in the case of Avacyn Restored, it was a reboot. And what happened in the draft environment there was that you drafted 3 packs from Avacyn Restored. It had 101 commons in it, 60 uncommons, 53 rares, 15 mythic rares and 15 basic lands. So they also had a new set of land for that particular set in the block. Obviously part of that reason was the fact that it was a reboot. I mean, sometimes they'll do new land for like non-first sets of a block, and there can be reasons for doing that. One reason might be that there's something in the storyline that works well if they have new artwork, or in the case of Avacyn Restored, if it's a reboot. So sort of themes and mechanics we're going to see as I go through some of the cards that I pulled when I opened this particular set. So there was a theme of angels versus demons. There was also something referred to as loners. So loners are the opposite of soul bond. You can sort of see here we've got Deadeye Navigator, which is a soul bond card, and then we have Lone Revenant, which is one of these loner cards. So with the soul bond, it pairs up with a creature, and in the case of the loner, this one Lone Revenant, it has some ability on it, something that is enhanced or activates because there's nothing else there. It's a loner. So in this case, whenever Lone Revenant deals combat damage to a player, if you control no other creatures, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So there was also flickering in the set. Some keywords and abilities to look out for as we're going through this. Miracle was a thing in this set, and we can see here we've got a miracle card. Entreat the Angels, and you can one giveaway, apart from the fact that it has miracle in its rules text, is the artwork on it. If you look at some other miracle cards, like Reforge the Soul or Bonfire of the Damned, same thing. You can see the border's different around the top there. So with Miracle, the Miracle cost, so on Entreat the Angels, the regular casting cost was 2x, 3 white for a sorcery, put X, 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. For the Miracle cost, which is X and 2 white, you could cast the card for its Miracle cost when you draw it, if it's the first card you draw this turn. Now these Miracle cards can cause a lot of problems when you're playing. You have to be really careful that you look at the card and make the decision to cast it for its miracle cost before you bring the card into your hand with the rest of your cards, because at that point you can't necessarily prove that that was the card you drew once it's in your actual hand with the other cards. So that can cause quite a few problems. Other keywords abilities we should look out for, obviously the pre-mentioned soul bond, It's still in this particular set. It was in other sets in the block. And Undying. There were a few cycles in here. We had really sort of part cycles. There was a cycle of legendary angels. Those were 3 mythic rares. There was a cycle of uncommon miracles. 4 of those are uncommon, and another cycle of 4 rares here. I'm having let's see, yeah, so a cycle of 4 rare miracles. And then there was a vertical cycle. There was a soul bond vertical cycle, which were 3 power toughness buffers, and there was a mega cycle which finished off the utility lands from the other sets. So there were 3 of those, and they were enemy coloured utility lands. And then other things to watch out for, the pairs in this set. So the pairs of cards that were sort of mirrors, I suppose. Harvester of Souls, Soul of the Harvest, Moonlight Geist, Searchlight Geist, Scroll of Avacyn, Scroll of Gristlebrand, and Triumph of Cruelties and Triumph of Ferocity. Some notable cards to look out for: Cavern of Souls, Entreat the Angels, Sigartha, Host of Herons, Vexing Devil, Gristlebrand, Appetite for Brains, or Crater of Behemoth. Crater of Behemoth was in here, and Mist Hollow Griffin. We'll come on to some other things as well that were part of Avacyn Restored, but let's look at actually some of the cards first of all. So these are the rares that I pulled, and also the foils in here as well. In fact, there's one there that's a foil rare. So we've got Kathos Crusade. As an enchantment, 3 and 2 white. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Cathedral Sanctify, got a foil of that. Cloud Shift, another foil. Entreat the Angels, this is the miracle card that I mentioned. Deadeye Navigator, very powerful card in EDH. So for Deadeye Navigator, 4 and 2 blue, it's a 5/5 creature spirit with soul bond on it. As long as Deadeye Navigator is paired with another creature, each of those creatures had 1 and a blue, exile this creature, then return it to the battlefield under your control. So you can see you can get all sorts of ETB shenanigans going on there on different cards. Also, you've got instant speed, activation, and so there's all sorts of other clever things you can do there if you've got the relevant mana to because what you've got there is there's a flicker effect on that. Remember we were mentioning that flickering was a theme and mechanic in here. Infinite Reflection, 5 and a blue, enchant creature. When Infinite Reflection enters the battlefield, attached to a creature, each other non-token creature you control becomes a copy of that creature. Non-token creatures you control enter the battlefield as a copy of enchanted creature. It's got Stolen Goods here, which is that foil. 3 and a blue, sorcery. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until he or she exiles a non-land card. Until end of turn you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Lone Revenant we looked at already. Additionally on this it has hexproof on it. Dread Slaver, 3 and 2 black, 3/5 creature zombie horror. Whenever a creature dealt damage by a Dread Slaver this turn dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. That creature is a black zombie in addition to other colours and types. So a couple of the rare miracles that I pulled were Bonfire of the Damned, 2x and a red. Bonfire of the Damned deals X damage to target player and each creature he or she controls, and the miracle cost on it is X and a red. So if you cast this card when you draw it, and remember also you may cast this card for its miracle cost when you draw it if it's the first card you draw this turn. So if you were to draw this apart from some other draw effect and it was the second of that turn, then you couldn't cast it for its miracle cost. Reforge the Soul, 3 and 2 red, sorcery. Each player discards his or her hand and draws 7 cards. So the miracle, and again with the miracle costs, all it does is alter the casting cost and the fact that you can cast it when you draw it. There's no other additional ability there that's there, and also you'll notice that the miracle cost is considerably, in the case of Reforge the Soul, considerably cheaper than its actual face casting cost there. Rite of Ruin, 5 and 2 red, sorcery. Choose an order for artifacts, creatures and lands. Each player sacrifices 1 permanent of the first type, sacrifices 2 of the second type, then sacrifices 3 of the third type. Got another foil here, Sumblewald Vigilante. Champion of Lambhold as well, 2 and 2 green as 1/1 creature human warrior. This was a rare. Creatures with power less than Champion of Lambhold's power can't block creatures you control. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion Lambhold. Another of the rare miracle cards. So 4 and 2 green, sorcery until end of turn. Target creature gets +6/+6, then gains trample, and all creatures able to block it this turn do so. And the miracle cost there is a single green, so real big difference there in casting cost. Sumblewald Sage, 2 and a green, 0/1 creature human druid. Add 3 mana of any one colour to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. Some equipment here as well. Moon Silver Spear, 4 generic mana. Equipped creature has first strike. Whenever equipped creature attacks, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Equip for 4. And Otherworld Atlas, also 4 generic mana to cast. It's an artifact. Put a charge counter on Otherworld Atlas. Each player draws a card for each charge counter on Otherworld Atlas. So those are the rares that I got in the foils. While we're at it, let's have a quick look at this. So this is the Fat Pack artwork. Now you remember I said if you're very careful and you're able to remove our old friend the snot glue, which is that sort of plasticky glue that they often use. It's also used to stick CDs to music magazines, and if you're very careful, I just use a sort of blunt knife for this and run it down here slowly. You can get this open without damaging it, and then inside you have artwork. There you go. So that's the Hellvault actually from the set. Let's see if we can find out a little bit more about the Hellvault. Okay, so typically with all of these, Player's Guide and Encyclopedia, you get a bit of backstory, and you'll see, and this is something that's I suppose it's improved over time, where there are certain indicator cards, if you like, which tie in with the story of the block. So there'll be certain cards that crop up in the set which have strong ties to the storyline. So here's our story about Avacyn and Griselbrand, and then obviously we've got some planeswalkers in the set, as is a thing in Magic sets since was it Lorwyn block. So in this set we had Tybalt and Tamiyo. And our top 10 coolest cards, so we've got Avacyn, Griselbrand, Sigarda, Rite of Ruin, Tandem Lookout, Terminus, which was another miracle card, Moon Silver Spear, Tybalt, Homicidal Seclusion, and Howlgeist. And then we move on to our cards. So we'll get to look at some of these cards when I go through the uncommons and the commons. And obviously we'll be having a look at a couple of intro packs from the set. Yeah, there's Tybalt there. And also we'll look at the event deck that was, or one of the event decks that was released to coincide with this set. Oh yeah, there's all our artwork for there. That's Cavern of Souls was in here actually. It's a pretty important Magic card. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So we can talk about some commons and uncommons. Okay, so here we go. Make sure this is good on camera. So as I mentioned when I've done a lot of these, one thing to watch out for when you're going through the colours, particularly at sort of common uncommon, where you see a lot of the utility cards here. You're going to see one of two things. You're going to see obviously things that are very typically included in that colour. There'll be certain cards which are, you see variants of in every single set, but also within that you'll see cards that maybe have been flavoured to suit the set's theme. So we've got Angel of Mercy was in the set, Builder's Blessing. Untapped creatures you control get +0/+2. Cool to serve. So you'll see, you see things like pump spells in white. Like this card which will change the type. So obviously, within certain colours you will see cards, enchantments like this, which will change the creature type. So what we're seeing in white here, we've got one of these cards, but also it's a creature type that's relevant to the set, in this case angels, because remember I said it was an angels versus demons theme. There's got life gain in white, which is obviously not unusual to see. Got cards that will prevent damage in some way. Defy Death. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's an angel, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So you can see another angel themed card. Emancipation Angel. Firebog Explorer. Leap of Faith. This card crops up quite a lot in Magic. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to that creature this turn. So those leap cards, where you've got gives the creature flying, or gives the creature flying plus some other ability. Midnight Duelist has protection from vampires. So gaining protection from certain colours, when you look back in the history of Magic, you see it in a ton of sets. If you go back to the original, the early sets in Magic, things like Circle of Protection. Can't think of the Circle of Protections. That was a big thing that White did. Was it the glyphs as well? I think. Maybe someone can correct me there if I've got it wrong. If they know early Magic that well. It's not the sort of thing that I remember that well off the top of my head. Moonlight Geist. Yeah, I think I mentioned that was a mirrored pair with Searchlight Geist. Righteous Blow. Now White has ways of dealing, again, typically in a lot of sets, of dealing with attacking or blocking creatures. Seraph of the Dawn, Spectral Gate Guards had Soulbond on it. So and gives the creature vigilance. Voice of the Provinces. Zealous Strike. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains first strike until end of turn. Doesn't look like I've got actually many commons and uncommons for this set. I don't think I opened, and you can sort of tell by the few rares that I have, a few rares and mythics. I don't think I opened an awful lot of product for this set. I think I basically opened definitely a fat pack, and then a couple of intro decks. So those would have come packed with packs, but I don't know if I opened that many individual boosters for this. Okay, moving on to blue. Amass the components was in here. Draw 3 cards and put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. Dreadwaters. Target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of lands you control. It always interests me with the set is how far down the mill rabbit hole that they go in certain sets, whether it's just superficial because it's like a blue thing, and you'll see here one of the nice things with the utility on this card is that you could use it on yourself. So you know, there's a mill effect here on an opponent, and you know, if there was enough mill cards in here, no doubt you could build a mill deck strategy. It can be pretty tricky to do stuff like that unless there's a real heavy mill presence in a set. But also, if we've got like a graveyard matters theme in here, then you know, you can cast cards like this on yourself to basically stock your graveyard. Elgold Shieldmate. 2 in a blue, 2/3 with Soul Bond. As long as the Elgold Shieldmate is paired with another creature, both creatures have hexproof. Favourable winds. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. Fettergeist got in here. Fleeting Distraction. It's got card draw on it, and target creature gets -1, -0 until end of turn. Another thing you see in blue, you know, I think there was I'm trying to think of what that's called. It's something Skitsfang, I think it is. Is it the one that's -13, -0? But often in blue you'll see this cards that mess about with the power and reduce it. Galvanic Alchemist, another Soulbond card. Guy Snatch. Counter target creature spell. Put a 1/1 blue spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Ghost Form. Ghostly Flicker. So exile 2 target artifacts, creatures and or lands you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under your control. So you remember I said there was flicker effects in here. Ghostly Touch. Yeah, again, a blue thing, very much like playing around with tapping or untapping stuff, or having some effect that you know, is based around tapping cards. Into the Void. So it's a bounce spell here, another thing you see in blue. Mass Appeal, card draw, human specific. Mist Raven. 2 and 2 blue, flying when Mist Raven is about to return target creature to its owner's hand. We've got a lot of bounce in here. Nifella Smuggler blue, 3 in a blue, exile another target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. So we've got repeatable flicker effect attached to a creature. So it's pretty neat. Peel from reality, return target creature you control and target creature you don't control to their owner's hand. So you can see there's a lot of bounce and flicker here in blue. Rockcrown Ghoul. When Rockcrown Ghoul dies, target player puts top 5 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Another mill spell. Scrap String. Oh crikey, what's the matter with me this morning? Scrap Skin Drake. Yeah, conditional blocker. Second Guess. So another variant on a counter spell here. So 1 and a blue instant counter target spell. That's the second spell cast this turn. Spectral Prison. 1 and a blue enchant creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its own controller's untap step An enchanted creature becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice Spectral Prison. Stern Mentor, another Soulbond card. Wingcrafter, another Soulbond. So you see Soulbond's very heavy in this deck still, in this set still. Okay, moving on to black. Appetite for Brains, Blood Artist. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target creature player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Bone Splinters. Single black sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Bone Splinter, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. No conditions on that apart from you have to sack a creature. Butcher's Ghoul's got Undying, so we're seeing Undying in black. Corpse Traders, some sack outlet. Crypt Creeper, Deathwind's in here, so X and a black. Target creature gets -X until end of turn. Demonic Taskmaster. So 2 and a black for 4/3. So it's above curve. Also got flying on it. But the downside is at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature other than Demonic Taskmaster. It's one of those cards which is sort of screaming build around me. How can I work that seemingly downside to make an upside? How could I build? Would it be possible to draft a deck that cared about sacrificing creatures? Driver of the Dead, Grave Exchange. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Target player sacrifices a creature. Ghoul Flesh. In enchanted creature gets -1/-1. You can see here it's also messing with the creature type and the colour. Human Frailty, destroy target human creature. So obviously humans were a thing still in this particular set, which is part of a humans matter block. Haunted Ghoul can't block humans. Marrow Bats, got regeneration. Mental Agony. Necrobite, target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn, regenerated. I think this was reprinted in later sets, or a later set. Predator's Gambit. Polluted Dead. When it dies, destroy target land. Renegade Demon, so that's a 3 and 2 black for 5/3 vanilla creature. Searchlight Geist, another creature with flying. That was that mirrored pair with Moonlight Geist. Soul Cage Fiend. When that dies, each player loses 3 life. Undead Executioner, 3 in the black. So when this one dies, you may have target creature get -2/-2. So you can see those are the sort of cards that you've got synergy with that. Where was it now? Demon Taskmaster. Okay, moving on to red. I seem to have pulled a lot more red and green cards in this set than any other one actually. Aggravate deals 1 damage to each creature target player controls. Each creature dealt damage this way attacks this turn if able. So it's sort of lure, like goading effects, thing you see in red. Banners raise, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Battle Hymn, add red to mana pool for each creature you control. So that's something that red does do. It does do. There are mana abilities in red, but they have, normally have some interesting way that those are implemented. Burn at the Stake. So you can see here in red we're seeing burn, we're seeing artifact land destruction, in this case in the form of demolish. So Fervent Cathar's got haste on it, another very red thing. And also when it enters the battlefield, a target creature can't block this turn. That's got an interesting combination of ETBs there. Gang of Devils. Yeah, there's a lot of cards here that, in addition to the cards we've seen with ETB, we've got a lot of leave the battlefield abilities. When a creature more so I suppose with this card when it actually dies. That's interesting. Something in Magic I became aware of. It's often they don't like doing these cards where, I know particularly they've had problems over the years where you've got sets which generate both +1 counters and -1 counters. But it's actually quite interesting to see a card where you've got we're used to seeing like plus something 0 or 0 plus something, but one where you've got +1 -1. That's a cool thing that Magic does, is that whole sort of messing with the whole combat math stuff side of things is very cool. So you've got, this is on an enchantment, but things like instants which have those power, toughness, changing, swapping, rebalancing type effects, on various cards in various colours, and it just makes sort of combat math so interesting, and there's some cool things you can pull off when stuff are instants. Basically, those are enchantments, but I'm thinking more about cards with similar effects that are an instant. Handwheel Lance, another soul bond. It's got +1/+1 counters in here. Red colour of Intimidate. Another +1/+1 counter thing. Damage, ATB damage. Again, cards that something you see in red. When other things enter the battlefield, then you get this other effect. So on Crew and Striker, gets +1/+1/+0 and gains trample until end of turn when another creature enters the battlefield. Lightning Marauder, Lightning Prowess, Mad Prophet's got haste and I forget what they call that. Is that rummaging, where you discard a card first before you draw it, rather than drawing and then discarding? Again, correct me there if I've got the term wrong. I think that's rummaging they refer it to. That's Pillar of Flame. I'm just looking in here for this sort of classic one red burn spell that you always hopefully see in a Magic set. So Pillar of Flame, single red. This is sorcery speed. Deals 2 damage to target ritual player. If a creature dealt damage this turn would die this turn. This turn, exile it instead. Raging Poltergeist, right, Ringleader. And I loved it. This is probably my favourite part of the video. Actually, just flicking through these sort of commons, uncommons, like utility cards. It's really nice to see like themes of the set spring out, and look out for again the sort of classic things you see in each colour, and then how they manifest themselves based on the theme of the set. Maybe what things might be considered to be underpowered, but don't matter too much in a draft environment, as long as it makes sense for the set itself. Obviously, outside of that, it may not see constructed play, but if it fits in and is powerful within a draft environment, then of course that's going to make it playable. So what have we got here? Rush of Blood, 2 and a red, target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is its power. So yeah, there's an instant spell that messes with the power there. Somber Ward Vigilante, Thatch Revolt. Yeah, but I mean, putting red single 1/1 red creature tokens is a thing in red. Or obviously putting red creature tokens is a thing, but this putting multiple copies of a of a creature. The card I'm thinking of is Dragon Fodder, is another card that does this. These ones actually get sacrificed, so it's like twist to that. So it's 2 and a red for that, for 3/1/1s, but they're sacrificed at the beginning of the end step. And not surprisingly, they have haste, otherwise it would make them not very useful. I suppose you could use them as blockers, but from an attack perspective. Thunderous Wrath, so this is one of these uncommon miracle cards. 4 and 2 red, deals 5 damage to target creature or player, and the miracle cost is a single red. Uncanny Speed, +3/+0 instant. There's quite a few of those. And Vigilante Justice. Whenever a human enters the battlefield under your control, Vigilante Justice deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Okay, so moving to our green cards. Borderland Ranger. Okay, so 2 and a green, 2/2. When Borderland Ranger enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. Bower Passage. 1 and a green. Creatures with flying can't block creatures you control. Durograph Escort. It's got another card with Soul Bond. A few of those. Druid's Familiar, another Soul Bond card. And so it's no surprise with the Soul Bond cards, you're going to see abilities that, when they're bonded, get activated, which are typical of a particular colour. So in this case, we're seeing that sort of +2/+2 pump thing, which is no surprise to see. This is a bear. So we've got a 3 and a green, 2/2 bear, where the Soul Bond ability gives the paired creatures +2/+2 on top. So, Eaten by Spiders, destroy target creature with flying and all equipment attached to that creature. Flowering Lumberknot, Geist Trappers, another Soul Bond creature. Yep, so again here we're seeing Reach, which is a very green thing. Gloom Widow. We're going to see spiders, I think. It's difficult to envisage a set, where there isn't a green card somewhere in that set that's not a spider. Grounded. Green has ways of dealing with flying. Oh, here's Howlgeist. So Howlgeist, 5 and a green, 4/2. Creature with power less than Howlgeist power can't block it, and it has Undying on it. So if you remember, when the creature dies, if it has no +1/+1 counter on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Lair Delve, 2 and a green, so a few of those. Nettle Swine, it's a 4/3 vanilla creature. Nightshade Peddler, Soul Bond on that one. There's a few of those. Natural End, destroy target artifact or enchantment, you gain 3 life. Pathbreaker 1, 4 and 2 green. Rain of Thorns, 4 and 2 green. Choose 1 or more. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or destroy target land. Sheltering Word, Snare the Skies, Terrifying Presence, Timberland Guide in here. 1 in the green, 1/1. When Timberland Guide enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on top of the creature. Triumph of Ferocity was in here. That was the mirror card to Triumph of Cruelty. Trusted Force Mage. It's a +1/+1 pump on that one. Vorst Claw, 7/7, 4 and 2 green vanilla. Wandering Wolf, Wildwood Geist, and Wolfear Avenger. There's flash on it. 1 and 2 green, 3/3 with flash, and 1 and a green regenerate Wolfear Avenger. So the odd cards at the end here we've got. So this would be our artifacts. So Angel's Tomb is in here. Angelic Armaments, Bladed Braces, cares about humans and or angels. Nestad Scrapper, Scroll of Gristlebrand, cares about demons. Vanguard Shield. And then again, the Angel's Tomb, that generates angels. So you can see here, angels, demons and humans. Thing. And then our utility common land, Seraph Sanctuary. When Seraph Sanctuary enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Tap, add 1 to your mana pool. So interesting, you've seen some of the life gain decks. It's always interesting when you've got a card which has an ability, like a repeatable life ability where it's triggered, to see in the set if there's maybe a build around deck possibly in there which cares about life gain. Okay, I'm trying to find my lid. Oh, here we go. Right. So let's look some of the pre-cons that came out then. So I've got a couple of the intro decks in here. First up we have, oops, these are sleeved and super slippery, because I've now messed up the order slightly. Okay, let me see if I can manage to get this back how it was. I think that's right. Okay. Right. So there's Deadeye Navigator. So this was called, just to go through, the 5 intro decks were Angelic Might, which was white-green, Solitary Fiends, which was blue-black, Slaughterhouse, I think it was called, yeah, which was black-red, Fiery Dawn, which was white-red, and Bond by Strength, which was a blue-green deck. So this was the, Bound by Strength. So this was the blue-green. Sounds like with a title like that, this is going to be a Soul Bond deck. So our lead card, and our lead card is Warfare Silverhearts. That's the foil. 3 and 2 green, 4/4 creature Wolf Warrior. It's got Soul Bond on it. As long as Warfare Silverheart is paired with another creature, each of those creatures gets +4/+4, and it's a 4/4. Deadeye Navigator I've already mentioned. 4 and 2 blue for a 5/5 with Soul Bond and that sort of exile ability on it. And rest of the cards. So at uncommon we had Nefarious Smuggler in here. Tandem Lookout, uncommon, another Soul Bond, and there were 2 of those. Latch Seeker is an unblockable, another uncommon, there's a couple of those. Warfare Avenger has got flash on it and regenerate. Druid's Familiar, so we're still on the uncommons in this particular deck. It's another Soul Bond creature, there's 2 of those. Acidic Slime from the core set, Death Touch on it. Vorse Claw, our 7/7 vanilla for 4 and 2 green. And we had a couple of those. We've got Overrun in here from the core set. Moving on to our commons, Wingcrafter, which has Soul Bond on it. 2 of those. We've got some Mana Elves, Land War Elves here. Nightshade Peddler, another Soul Bond common. 2 of those. Runecore Bear. So our bear, our 2/2 for 2. Trusted Force Mage, another Soul Bond creature. And there were 3 of those. Elgord Shield Mage, another Soul Bond, 2 of those. Flowering Lumberknot. Geist Trappers, Pathbreaker 1, another Soul Bond creature. Got Ice Cage in here, Lockdown. Joint Assault, so that's our single green pump spell. But again, this twist, a good example in the set of taking something which we're already familiar with. So in this case, a green card that pumps, it's an instant which gives something 2/2. But if it's paired with a creature that's if it's paired with a creature, that creature also gets +2/+2 until end of turn, so it cares about soul bond. Lair Delve, and then our mana base. So beyond the Land War Elves, we don't really have any, you know, I mean, there isn't any non-basic land sort of mana fixing going on in here. Just so you can see the artwork really. Yeah. It's very slippery. Okay. Whoops, this is all over the place. Doing a very good job here. Alright, so that's that deck. Okay, so the other one I got was the Solitary Fiend. So I didn't really think about it at the time, but in some ways this was quite a good choice, because on the one hand I bought the Soul Bond deck, and on the other hand I must have bought the, this would be the sort of loner deck equivalent. So this one was the blue-black one where, you know, in the case of Lone Revenant, got 3 and 3 blue for 4/4 with hexproof, and whenever Lone Revenant deals combat damage to a player, if you control no other creatures, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So Demonic Rising, 3 and a 2 black for enchantment at the beginning of your end step. If you control exactly one creature, put a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So of course if you're playing with a one of these sort of loner decks, then obviously that's you know, you're already going to be going down that particular avenue, so this this synergizes with that. Fettergeist, again something, you know, that takes advantage of the fact that you're not going to be playing many creatures. So this is a 2 and a blue for 3/4 with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Fettergeist unless you pay 1 for each other creature you control. So in a deck where you're trying to only play like a single creature, that sort of downside isn't quite as critical. Okay, so 2 of those. Triumph of Cruelty. Homicidal Seclusion is in here, so we're moving on to our uncommons in this deck. Into the Void. Corpse Trader. Marrowbats. Swiftfoot Boots was in here from the core set. Tormentor's Trident. There's a couple of those. Crypt Keeper. Alchemist's Apprentice. So we're moving on to our commons. Oh, I'm sorry. So that was Mistraven. Undead Executioner. So we've got, yes, there's a lot of stuff here with ETB and leaves the battlefield. Also LTB effects. Renegade Demon. Havengal Scap. Predator's Gambit. Something that cares about having no other creatures. Doomblades in here from the core set. There's a couple of those. Peel from Reality. Frost Breath. So of course what you're going to see as well with a deck that plays, you know, or the strategy is to try and just have one creature in play. Obviously that's pretty dangerous in terms of, you know, creature combat. So what you're going to see to supplement that is you know, cards that are going to deal with creatures somewhere, either sort of bouncing them like tempo plays, or stuff that counters creatures or taps them down, or, you know, so I suspect with this deck you've got this sort of, you know, single creature strategy combined with control, you know, control, blue-black control component. So Crippling Chill, Essence Harvest. Yeah, so here's an interesting card. So you've got a deck where you're playing a single creature, and you've got a card like Essence Harvest is 2 and a black. Target creature loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the greatest power amongst creatures you control. So, you know, with this deck, the first question you're asking yourself is, you know, how might I manipulate my play in some way so that the creature that I actually have in play, if indeed I've just played a single creature, has sufficient power to make this card relevant, basically. And then we move on to our non-basic lands again. You know, we move on to our basic lands. So here we've got no non-basic fixing going on. Pretty cool artwork here. I find, you know, in a sort of you know, horror themed or graveyard matter set, it's always interesting to see what sort of artwork ends up on the black non-basic cards. So again, we've got our blue cards here, so you can get a feel for the sort of artwork that you would see in that set. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we had an event deck all here, and where's it gone? Okay, so our event deck is this one, which is, what do they call this? Oh, Death's Encroach. All sleeved up and good to go. Right, so with this we also get, in addition to the rather flimsy deck box, we get a some weird different, yeah, there we go, can you see that? Okay, yeah, so mottled sort of black white spin down counter. Okay, so we have Gravecrawler. So this is a single black 2/1 Gravecrawler, can't block. You may cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. Gloom Surgeon, single generic mana and a black for a 2/1 creature spirit. If combat damage would be dealt to Gloom Surgeon, prevent that damage and exile that many cards from the top of your library. Cemetery Reaper, 2 and 2 black, 2/2 creature zombie. Other zombie creatures you control get +1/+1. 2 and a black, tap, exile target creature card from a graveyard, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. So we've got a zombie lord in here. So no surprise, this looks like this is going to be a zombie deck. Giraffe's Messenger, triple black, 3/5 creature zombie. Giraffe's Messenger enters the battlefield tapped. When Giraffe's Messenger enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 2 life. It has Undying on it. Lash Writhe, there was another rare in here. 4 generic artifact equipment, living weapon. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each swamp you control. Has equip for 2 black Phyrexian mana. So yeah, one other point with these sort of decks, with these event decks, you're going to see a much wider sets. So you know, you're going to see cards that were in the previous block as well. They're going to sort of pull down cards from there. Basically anything that makes sense within a deck that's designed to be, you know, slightly more competitive than, say, an intro deck. And there's a couple of those. Dorograph Ghoul, single black. So we're moving on to our commons now. Into the battlefield tap. It's a 2/2, so that's the downside on that. We've got the skin render in here. Go for the throat. A dismember. A couple of those actually. Despise. Crypt Keeper was in here. Highborn Ghoul. Play a set of those. Ghoul Razor. An Altar's Reap. Several Altar's Reap. Some Doom Blades. And then mono black deck. So we've got a mono black mana base. So all our basic lands are in black. And I don't know how many different types of artwork here. Looks like there's only a couple. Maybe 3. They're all coming from, yeah. There you go, it's pretty good. I love that artwork from the set. So it looks like, yeah, these came from actually Avacyn Restored. Okay, so as I mentioned before, with these decks, we've got a sideboard. So you would sideboard cards out based on matchups. Sideboard cards in. Surgical Extractions in the sideboard. Appetite for Brains. We've got a couple of those. We've got a Death Mark. There's a few of those. We've got a Despise. Crypt Creeper. A Distress. A couple of Distresses. Triumph of Cruelty. And Ghoul Razor. So the Triumph of Cruelty, Triumph of Ferocity is sort of highlighting the conflict between 2 of the Planeswalkers in the set. Was it Nissa and Geralt? Okay, so that was the set that came out in the quarter. That was Avacyn Restored. So now I'm going to move on to talking a bit about Planechase. So Planechase was a multiplayer product. Now this came out on June the 1st. It was 1999 when it came out. It was, I suppose, a second edition because there'd been a previous Planechase set with, again, I think 4 decks in 2009. And so what they did is obviously they changed up the themes. There were 6 new cards in each deck. One of those cards actually appeared in every single deck, so that meant there were 21 new cards in total. 3 cards had new artwork: Armoured Griffin, Concentrate and Dark Hatchling. And the 4 decks were the Chaos Reigns deck, which was a Wooburg, so it was a 5-colour Cascade deck. Now, when things get interesting, so just explain before I show you some other stuff what was in here. So we had Planechase cards, which we'll look at, and the Planechase dice. Now, what I've discovered when I was going through, or what I rediscovered, in actual fact, I did actually buy all 4 of the decks, but I only, and I don't know why I did this, maybe I got tied up with something else, I only actually unboxed one of them, which was the Chaos Reigns deck. So in my little box of Magic Wonder, I have found the other 3 Planechase decks unopened. So what I'm going to do at some point, hopefully within the next few days, so it sort of ties in with this video, is actually unbox these, so I can show you which was in the other deck. So just so you know, the Knight of the Ninja deck was a ninjutsu blue-black deck. And a lot of these sort of give away by their title. The Savage Auras deck was the theme was Totem Armor, and that was white-green. And then we had a Primordial Hunger deck, which was a Devour deck. Again, a bit of a giveaway by the title of that deck, and that was red-green. So going back to the deck that I did actually unbox, let's have a look. We will also at the same time find a little bit about how Cascade works. Just some focus. Okay. So just to wind it back, so Planechase was a multiplayer format, and you had these Planechase cards as part of the product. So you can see these represent a different plane in Magic. There might be within your Planechase deck, you may find that there's more than one copy of a planar card. So this one is Mount Corellia, and the plane is Regatha. So at the beginning of your end step, put a pressure counter on Mount Corellia. When you planeswalk away from Mount Corellia, it deals damage equal to the number of pressure points on it to each creature and each planeswalker. So by now, and this probably was the same in the other Planechase deck, planeswalkers were a thing. So whenever you roll, and it goes on to refer to the planar dice, and I'll sort of explain how this all fits in. Whenever you roll, I don't know if you can see the symbol there. So if you look at this Planechase dice, let me just show you. The sides of this planar dice are blank apart from 2 sides. On one you have that magic symbol, and on the other, there you go, you have that. So you can see here, roll the dice, and whenever you roll this, prevent any damage that planes named Mount Corellia would deal this game to permanents you control. And we've got Hedron Fields of Agadeem, so that's on the plane of Zendikar, and you can see each one of these has a planar dice rule on it. Grand Ossuary, that's in Ravnica. Triggear General, that's in Agamon. Mutual Epiphany. So also the other card in here was a phenomenon card. So you can see it's slightly different here. So it says whenever you encounter Mutual Epiphany, each player draws 4 cards. Then planeswalk away from this phenomenon. Another phenomenon card's Time Distort. Windriddle Palaces. So we're back to planar cards now. Planes cards. Trail of the Mage Rings. Plane is Vryn, I think that is. Orzova is in Ravnica. Nephalia is Innistrad. And then we're back to Mount. Yep, Mount Relia, I think that is. Okay, so then we just have a look at the instructions on this so we can get this back into context, because it is difficult for me to actually remember how this all fits together. So here's our packing insert. The packing inserts were, I think, they all had the different deck lists for all 4 decks on there, and then there was instructions on how to use your planar deck. So it's a free-for-all game among 3 to 6 players, or you can of course play 2-player Planechase games. Each player will need a traditional deck as well as a planar deck, so that's the planes cards and phenomenon cards. Each player should shuffle his or her traditional deck as usual, as well as the planar deck. The game also needs 1 planar die. If each player has a Planechase game pack, you're good to go. So you basically start up similar to regular Magic. Each player draws a hand of 7 cards like normal. You take mulligans. Once everyone has kept an opening hand, the player will go first turn as the top card of his or planar deck face up. If it's a phenomenon card, that player should put it on the bottom of his or planar deck and try again. It will have no effect because the first turn hasn't started. Once a playing card is turned face up, that's the starting plane. Any abilities that trigger when you planeswalk to that plane won't trigger. Then the first turn begins. And then there's instructions about using your planar deck. Keep your planar deck in its own face down pile near your library. Never put the cards on the battlefield, they're not permanents. At any given time the game has 1 face up plane whose abilities affect the game, or 1 face up phenomenon that's being encountered. If an ability of the plane or phenomenon says "you" on it, "you" refers to the players taking the current turn. The player who's taking the current turn is considered to be the controller of that face-up card, regardless of who owns it. During your turn, any time you cast a sorcery, you may roll the planar die. You can do this multiple times in the same turn. To roll the die, you must pay an amount of mana equal to the number of times you've already rolled the die this turn. So the first roll is free, the second roll costs 1, the third roll costs 2, and so on. Rolling the die happens immediately. No one can respond to it, but the results do not. Rolling the die could have 3 effects. If you roll a blank face, nothing happens. If you roll the chaos... Oh, that's it. That is actually the chaos symbol. If you roll the chaos symbol, the face-up playing card's chaos ability... Oh, yeah. So, okay, that's... Well, I went wrong. So that ability that you saw at the bottom of the card is actually what's called the chaos ability. And that's what triggers, okay, when you do that. Players may cast instants and activate abilities before it resolves. If you roll the Planeswalker symbol, the face-up planar card's unwritten Planeswalking ability triggers. Players may cast instants and activate abilities before it resolves. When the Planeswalking ability resolves, the face-up playing card is put on the bottom of its owner's planar deck. Then you turn the top card of your planar deck face up. If it's a phenomenon card, it will have an ability that triggers when you encounter it. Players may cast instants and activate abilities before it resolves. The phenomenon card is put on the bottom of your planar deck after its ability has been dealt with. And you'll turn the top card of your planar deck face up. You might even encounter another phenomenon. Eventually you'll turn over a plane card, welcome to the new world. The plane may have abilities that trigger when you planeswalk to it. These abilities trigger when the plane card thereon is turned face up, either because it's a planeswalker symbol was rolled or because a player who owned the previous face up plane left the game. So if you can follow all of that, fantastic. So yeah, that's how that fits in with the game, and the symbol on there, the one I sort of thought was just a plain chaser, was actually called the chaos symbol, and that's what triggers that that chaos clause on those cards. So let's actually look at the deck itself. Now we've gone through the rather unwieldy mechanics. Okay. Maelstrom Wander, 5 blue red black, blue red green, 7/5 legendary creature elemental. Creatures you control have haste, and then this card actually has double cascade on it. So with cascade, When you cast this spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled card on the bottom in a random order, then do it again, because this has double cascade on it. Whirlpool Warrior, 2 and a blue. So I'm going to go through all the rares, basically individually, and then we'll flip through the rest of the cards. Creature Merfolk Wizard, it's a 2/2. When Whirlpool Warrior enters the battlefield, shuffle the cards from your hand into your library, then draw that many cards. Single red, sacrifice Whirlpool Warrior. Each player sacrifices the cards from his or her hand into his or her library, then draws that many cards. Did I say sacrifice? I meant each player shuffles. Ethereum Horn Sorcerer, 4 blue red, 3/4 artifact creature, Minotaur Wizard. 1 blue red, return Ethereum Horn Sorcerer to its owner's hand. This has cascade on it as well. Enigma Sphinx, 4 white, blue, black, 5/4 artifact creature Sphinx with flying. When Enigma Sphinx is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, put it into your library. 3rd from the top, another cascade card. Sunken Hope, 3 and 2 blue, enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player returns a creature he or she controls to his owner's hand. Mass Mutiny, 3 and 2 red, sorcery. For each opponent, gain control of target creature that player controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn. Last Stand, white, blue, black, red, green. So we get the full Wooburg here. It's a sorcery. Target opponent loses 2 life for each swamp you control. Last Stand deals damage equal to the number of mountains you control with target creature. Put a 1/1 green sapling creature token onto the battlefield for each forest you control. You gain 2 life for each plains you control, and draw a card for each island you control. Then discard that many cards. Fun card. And now we're moving on to our commons. So Illusory Angel is in here. There's a couple of these. Guard Gomazoa. Shardis Ancient, which has cascade on it. A couple of those. Noggle Ransacker. Peregrine Drake. Bloodbraid Elf, another cascade card. A couple of those. That's new artwork, I think. Well, newer artwork. I don't know if that specifically was new for this. Not sure there actually. Cathari Remnant, another cascade card. Fusion Elemental. So we've got an 8/8 vanilla, but full Woolberg to cast that. Brutalizer Exarch. Enlisted Worm, another cascade card. Beast Within. Bituminous Blast, another cascade. Arc Trail. Rival's Duel. Primal Plasma. Ondu Giant. Fiery Fall. It's got land cycling on it. Sea Beyond. A couple of those. There's a Cultivate in here, because basically you can understand in a Wooburg deck there's got to be some way in which you can help deal with having to play 5 colours. So Cultivate is one way. Erratic Explosion. Deny Reality, another card with cascade on it. We've got Armoury Sphere in here to help with our mana, and there's a couple of those. Got Fractured Power Stone, which interacts with the planar die, so my guess is this is the card that's in all the decks. So we've got, obviously we're going to need some non-basics in here to again help facilitate 5 colour. We've got Exotic Orchard. Add your mana pool 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls will produce. Got some Vivids in here. They have those charge counters on them, which adds mana of any colour to your mana pool, and these come into play with 2 charge counters on them and tapped. Plus they tap for their sort of on colour, if you like. So we've got the blue one, Vivid Creek. We've got a Rupture Spire in here, again helps with mana fixing. And 2 of those. We've got Shimmering Grotto, which is filtering for mana, and there's 2 of those. Terramorphic Expanse, another way of searching down basic lands. So not a ton of non-basic lands actually, and only 1 Vivid for blue. So these are our basic lands. We've got 2 for white, a few more islands there, and some swamps, just a couple of those, and some mountains, and then some forests. So for blue and white we have the least amount of basic lands, and then some more for each of the other colours. So there we have that Chaos Reigns Planechase deck. Like I said, what I'm going to do is do some unboxings for the other Planechase decks, the Night of the Ninja, the Primordial Hunger and the Savage Auras, and I'm going to try and get them done before the next Saturday morning nostalgia episode, so it makes more sense to do it that way. And so in this quarter, in May to July, we had 2 things we looked at. We had Avacyn Restored, May the 4th, and the Planechase 2012 product, which came out on June the 1st. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.